see their ends. Many hands make a miracle, people climbing together. Soon we reach to the pinnacle of every mountain peak we hazardous one. We lift our hands to welcome the sun. We lift our hands to welcome the sun.
Good morning, everyone, and also good morning to you all online. If this is new to you, this is why we have the microphone. You may be wondering, I don't hear anything differently, but the microphone is going into that. This week's topic, reason versus intuition. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Jesus, when addressing his critics, appealed to reason and common sense. In his training of the disciples, however, he, like all great masters, encouraged in them the development of a higher faculty, soul intuition. For it is only by intuition that spiritual perceptions are achieved. In chapter 16 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, we find Jesus drawing on the intuition of his disciples by asking them who they thought he was in reality. They immediately understood that what he wanted from them was a subtle answer, not some obvious reply based on his nationality, sex, and the like. Peter it was at last who understood and answered the question on its intended level, the spiritual. "Thou art the Christ," he said, "the Son of the living God." And Jesus turned to him, saying, "Blessed art thou, Simon, son of Jonah, for not by human nature was this truth revealed to thee, but by my heavenly Father. And I tell thee this also, thou art Peter, which is to say, a rock, and upon this rock will I build my church, and never will the powers of darkness overwhelm it." Jesus was pleased with his disciple for relating to the question on its deepest level. Reason could not have given Peter that answer. The answer came through the faculty of soul intuition and proved him thereby to be a spiritually advanced disciple. It was his intuitive perception, that insight which cannot be shaken by tempests of reasonable doubt, that Jesus praised in referring to him as a rock. The, quote, church he referred to next was the edifice of cosmic consciousness. Any outer church institution would have to depend, as in fact the Christian churches have always done, on the level of understanding of its individual leaders and members. Peter's intuitive perceptions could never have been passed on to an outward succession of prelates. Clarity comes by direct soul perception. Confusion results from excessive dependence on reason as the guide to understanding. As the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita states, "When your intellect, at present confused by the diversity of teaching in the scriptures, becomes steadfast in the ecstasy of deep meditation, then you will achieve final union with God." Should I read this page? The Bhagavad Gita implies here that any search for spiritual truth without the corresponding practice of deep inner communion will probably result sooner or later in mental confusion. For even the simplest teachings are open to misinterpretation. The basic concern of the scriptures, therefore, is only secondarily with defining truths or formulating dogmas. Spiritual niceties of this sort are more appropriately left to the pedants. The scriptures, on the other hand, are more concerned with sounding a call to spiritual action. They offer practical suggestions for how one may grow in the actual realization of truth, and they seek to inspire in all men the desire to tread this highest path. Endless theorizing is for labyrinthine minds. More pleasing to God than all the scholarship that human brain can hold is a heart, even though the mind be unlettered, that is open to his love. The way to know God is by stilling the mind, and not by agitating it, by deep meditation, and not by reasoning intricately from countless scriptural premises. The way to know God is by living consciously in his blissful presence, and not by the perfunctory performance of outward rituals. The way to know God finally is to commune with him in inner silence, with true love, and not to shout to the heavens the carefully reasoned dogmas of one's beliefs. He who loves deeply will speak little to others of his love. But he who boasts proudly of his devotion and with outward noise displays his piety to others is too besotted with the, quote, music of his own voice ever to hear the silent whispers of the infinite beloved in his soul. Dear ones, let us speak little, but love greatly, and let us ever commune with God in the ecstatic silence of our own souls. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all here. We had a great few weeks together with Nayaswami's Jyotishji and Deviji here, and we move on, except they're still in our hearts, and you can always see them online. There's been a song in my mind all week long, and I definitely want to teach it to the choir. I thought it was in my mind because I wanted to have the choir learn it, but I realized when I was going to talk about this topic that in actuality we need to sing this song today. And so you won't be singing the whole song with me, but I'm going to teach you just the part that repeats every verse. And so the song is called Go On Alone, and not the Walk Like a Man, Go On Alone, but the Truth Can Never Die, Go On Alone song. And this song is about having an intuition about the truth, and then following that intuition with courage. And isn't that so what we need in our lives? Is we will hear that intuition very often and sometimes say, no, you know, I don't want to hear that intuition. Or if I listen to that intuition, it's too inconvenient to follow. And yet Swamiji in this song, I think after we sing this, you'll feel that courage that he's trying to encourage us to have when we do have that intuition. And I'll speak a little bit more like it. So I'll sing the first verse and then teach you it's called the refrain, the part that we repeat over and over. Some men call it progress, down with those who doubt. To join the causes others join, and shout when others shout. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Isn't that great? So the refrain is, come, you're a man, no passive stone. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Okay, let's try the whole thing, okay? Here we go. We'll start with Come You're a Man. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. So I'll do the next verse. Some men lack the daring ever to be free. They shun the heights and crowd the depths and court security. Together. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't lose weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Cowards see but pride in singularity. Oh, never mind if men are wrong, so long as they agree. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Claim the power within you, error to defy. The world may change or disappear, but truth can never die. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Excellent. You ready to learn the guitar part on this one too, Lassie? Now you can feel that courage in that song, can't you? Doesn't it just make you want to go out and do it? And then there's the other side, isn't there? There's that part of us that can be very fiery and outspoken and speaks without following intuition also, right? And Masters said that it's actually not a good trait to have, compulsiveness. And I think many of us have it. It has taken me so many years. I'm very fiery myself, if you haven't already noticed. And to just hold back and not say the first thing that comes into your head. Americans are straightforward enough, you know, without also just giving their opinions all the time. It was more what would happen with me is I would know the truth of a situation and be confrontative, not in a loud voice, but I would say it and it would knock people on their ear because it was like, I did not want someone to know that. You know, why did you just say that out loud, you know? And not that I was right every time, so that makes it not so great, but when you are right, you know the truth and you do that, even if it's gently, even if it's. But what Swamiji always did was he made sure people were ready to hear the truth. And first of all, it's not our job to always call people on the carpet, but he said he would wait years and years and years before even mentioning something to someone because they weren't yet ready to receive it. It's very important. So you see, in some cases, go on alone, banish weakness. In other cases, that person, that thing, it's between them and God. I don't need to be involved, you see? So it'd be nice to say this one all the time, you know. Go on alone, go on, let's do it, you know. But on the other hand, we're talking about following intuition. We're talking about, you know, you get that still voice in your mind that says, don't say that. And then you go, yeah, but, and then say it, and then maybe the results aren't exactly what you wanted them to be. And that's a good way to know, to test our intuition, is if we say something and we know it's the truth. I just know that's the truth. But the way the person responded is not what we expected, then that is proof that we didn't have a 100% accurate intuition. You see? We need to take in the whole picture of a situation when we are talking to people, when we are, the truth of the situation is not just, I see this thing in this person that I need to tell them about. It's also, what will their reaction be? How will it impact the current reality? How will it impact their reality? How will it impact, in general, my friendship with that person? How will it impact the whole reality? This is what Swamiji, the genius that he was, and I mean, not only, he was very much an intellectual genius as well, but there's something called emotional intelligence. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it means that you are, most likely it means you're intuitive and you understand the emotional realities that are around you. And someone can be very, very intelligent. You might take Steve Jobs, for example. He was very, very intelligent. But a lot of times, even though he did a great work, a lot of times people around him were miserable because he was just very mean and blunt and some people said this was the best time of my life and the worst time of my life, those that worked with him, because there was so much creative genius going on in the environment, and yet so much misery making because of the stuff. I don't know, who knows? We all go through those kinds of situations, and it's our karma, right? We get bonked on the head, and we can't prevent it. The bonks come. But we learn from that. So this emotional intelligence, Swamiji had it. I felt when I was in his presence, he knew everything going on with me. And I chose not to be embarrassed about it. I chose that I wanted to be open to his whatever he said. And for those who wanted that, he would be quite blunt. He would only be blunt with people who he knew wanted it or accepted it or could take it. And so I knew I wanted to receive that. And so there were some conks on the head that still to this day I will think about and contemplate. And it was only recently that one thing he said, it wasn't a conk on the head, but it was another thing that I've been meditating on for years, and finally I feel like I understood it. But this is about attunement to the Guru. He says these things to us, and sometimes it can take years to even know what was meant by it. But when you have an open mind, see, when that intuition comes, or when the Guru says something, and we can either say, whatever, I don't understand that. Or if you keep your mind open, you say, now I wonder what was meant by that. I'm going to put this in my little bag of tools, or in my little bag of for understanding for future future reference, maybe when my own emotional intelligence becomes larger. And just hold on to that, because knowing that anything he said was a treasure for me to hold on to, I didn't want to deny any of that. And this is true for all of us. Things happen in our lives. People say certain things to us in our lives, and very often we will say, I don't want to hear what that person has to say, and shut up, that kind of a thing. But in reality, everything that's coming to us is coming from God on some level. And as we hone our intuition more and more, we hear that. And it's true in spiritual community as well. It's easy to see someone with a difficult personality and kind of say, whatever, buddy, you know, that kind of a thing. I used to work with one woman who, she was very nervous all the time. Now, this is at Ananda, okay? Very nervous all the time. She meditated regularly. It wasn't like you could say, you need to meditate more or anything like that. Just like, what do you mean? And very detail-oriented. You know, like, excuse me, there's an extra period right there in that sentence. You know, so always that way. And I found it a little humorous, but sometimes I'd get nailed by her, and then it was a little less humorous. But one day I just decided to meditate over. I love her dearly. I decided to meditate on her. Just like, Master, let me tune in to what's going on here. Because she's probably been on the path now maybe 40 years or something like that. She's been meditating a long, long time. And still has that kind of, But when I meditated on her, what I realized was her personality was just this very thin shell, like the shell of an egg, you know, very thin shell. And her soul was very big. And all those years of meditation had really done their work. And so the shell of the personality is really what all of us have. Just this shell, it really doesn't mean that much. It's kind of like, okay, we're born and we get this personality. And in different lifetimes, we have different personalities. We might have similar characteristics, but we have different personalities that are applied to our life circumstances and the karma that we need to work through in this life. So the personality really is secondary. And so it's very nice in spiritual community to tune into each other that way. It helps respect another individual and not take so seriously when someone has an irritating characteristic. I remember, was it at a workplace? It's happened a number of times. Being in a workplace, and one person used to love to talk about Swami, and it wasn't quite negative, but they were always trying to point out his personality. Like, well, Swami likes that, and I don't know if I agree. And, you know, when he made that decision, I just, you know, I know business better. And I remember just thinking, it's such an analytical way of looking at someone. I just couldn't tune into that. And the more I was with that person, the more I thought, okay, at some point I'm just going to have to tell them something. And it got too much for me. And I finally said, you know, I don't want to hear your negativity about Swamiji anymore. And it felt like talking about his personality felt so worldly. It was not taking into account the great amount of spiritual power he was giving to each one of us. And I knew for a fact that he acted very kindly towards this person despite how they were and what they thought about him, because he knew what they thought about him. And he still chose to be very kind. And, you know, he really allowed himself to be a channel of this energy flowing through. And when you're being a channel, you don't want to be caught up in personal preferences and things like that, although I don't know how many personal preferences he really had. But, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in the mind, get caught up in analytical thoughts, and it separates us from devotion in some cases. You know, not that we don't want to remain intelligent and competent and do our jobs and that kind of a thing, but when we live in that analysis and picking things apart, it's really, I guess it's really a bummer. It's kind of a party pooper, you know, because when you're on an intuitive level and you're allowing love to flow, and then suddenly a critical or analytical thought comes in and the love is squelched, then that's a key, a clue that something didn't quite happen the right way there. We should be able to have thoughts that solve problems that don't squelch the love. But as soon as that love is squelched, as soon as that devotion is squelched, it hurts the heart. You know, you can tune into the heart. You can say, ow, that hurt. You know, I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with someone and then a third person comes in and goes, yeah, you know. And then it's like suddenly the heart is like, okay, I guess I need to like protect my heart just a little bit in this case. But it's a clue for ourselves when those thoughts come in and the devotion is squelched. Okay, how can I do this more differently? You know, I've mentioned this before when I was an engineer. I would have dreams on how to solve some of the equations that I had to solve. Now that, to me, is ideal, because then you don't have to have all the analytical thoughts coming in squelching things. But I found over time, for me, that engineering wasn't right. And right before I started working for Ananda, I was looking into other career options and thinking, you know, I'm more people-oriented. And nothing's wrong with being object-identified or object-oriented if you're that way. But for me, it was going against my nature to continue to be an electrical engineer. And I was thinking back now, what made me decide to be an electrical engineer? And it was because I didn't know myself. I hadn't meditated before, and I didn't know what my nature was enough to make a choice. I made that choice when I was in high school, like 11th standard or something like that. And so, you know, I acted on that choice, of course, and went all the way through. But then after going all the way through, I thought, this isn't right. And I remember in high school, my chemistry teacher, and I like science and everything, just said, you know, I don't know. I don't know if you'll like that. And I was determined, no, you know, I'm going to be an electrical engineer, whatever that is. But what I was following was this intellectual path for myself and not anything to do with feeling for me. I grew up wanting to be a veterinarian to heal animals, or be a marine biologist, or even at one point in 10th standard, I wanted to be an open heart surgeon. A group of us students wanted to be doctors, and a counselor at the school who was kind of part of it, I can't remember the name of the club I was in, said, well, anyone who wants to be a doctor, you know, high school students are invited to go to this open heart surgery at the hospital. And so we sat not in the room, but there was some viewing thing, and we all sat there, and yes, and now the heart's being opened and being put, you know. Then something changed. I don't remember what it was, and it said, intellectual only. I'm going to be smart and intellectual, and this is how I'm going to be. But it was against my nature. And then finally, when I began meditating, I realized something was wrong. And that's when I thought, oh, I've got to switch it. And I started researching marketing or something else. But then I got scooped into Ananda, which I was very glad about. And I've still been using technical abilities, but I am not really an engineer in my mind, even though I still have that knowledge. I don't find it enjoyable to get in that part of my brain. So that's only what I've learned. So we have to find our own balance. Some people are very brilliant and enjoy that, you know, Dharmaraj and did theoretical mathematics. When I looked at this stuff now, I'm like, what? You know, I cannot even think of that. But for him, it was fun. Now, that's the difference. It wasn't just intellectually challenging, I'm going to do well. It was, hey, this is fun. You know, so that's another clue. What's the right answer? Not just that we follow our whims of what is fun, but why not? Why not choose something that gives us fulfillment, something that gives us that? And so, you know, one other thing about intuition, because everybody's at a different level of maybe how well they're tuned into their intuition. But one thing you can do is when you have an intuition, test it. So the intuition comes, you may not act on it, or if it's not a big deal, you might act on it, and then observe the results. And this is a way that we can tune in more and more with the intuition. And ultimately, yes, intuition helps us on our day-to-day life. It helps us in our relationships. It helps us on many levels. But what Master spoke most about to his close disciples regarding intuition was attunement to the Guru. So we are really only developing our intuition so that we can tune more and more deeply into the Guru. We want that. We want to, as disciples, we want to hear his ideas in our head only. We want to follow those ideas only. And that takes courage. It takes courage to be open enough to receive the intuition that's trying to get through. It takes courage to follow what the Guru is saying. Also, it's much more fun, I think myself, because Master Swamiji, they come up with much better ideas than I would have ever had. And so I just find it fun to live in a way to be able to hear the guidance and follow that guidance. And if you're in a job that, you know, has structure and that kind of thing, you can still find wonderful ways to follow God's guidance. We all have to deal with people unless you're in some isolated cave in front of a computer. But we all have to deal with people no matter what our job is. And this is where the intuition, follow Master's will in dealing with people, follow what he wants us to do. Have that strong courage when it's needed, have the softness when it's needed. Just go with that intuition. It makes life much more fun, much more fulfilling. And we find that through following that intuition, we can live in God's bliss and even still function in our day-to-day life. It's a very beautiful path we've all chosen. This is from Master's Whispers from Eternity. It's called, Let Me Feel That Thou and I Art One. When the sparks of cosmic creation flew from under thy crucible of love, I danced with all the lights that heralded the coming of a myriad worlds. I'm a little spark of thy joyous cosmic fire. O thou Son of Life, as thy nectar poured into the little cups of human minds filled with molten liquid of vital sparks, they thought to contain thy golden infinity in the smallness of their human feelings. In each fragile, undulating mirror of human flesh, I see reflected thy restless dance of omnipresent power. In the lambent waters of life, I behold thy ever-steady, almighty life. Teach me, Christ-like, by the power of concentration, to still the restless storms of desire raging on the lake of my mind. Stilling those waters, I lovingly behold thy unruffled face of cosmic stillness. Cause the little wave of my life to subside, that thy consciousness in me spread out to become thine own vastness. Let me feel my heart throbbing in thy breast, my feet moving with thy energy, thy breath breathing through mine, thy energy actively moving my arms, thy thoughts weaving all the thoughts in my brain. When I cry, thy soft sigh within me wakens me to thy joy. In thy playfulness, little bubble visions of thy creation float dancingly in the chamber of my dreams, which manifest in my sleep of delusion. Thy meteoric will courses through the skies of my own willpower. Make me feel that it is thou who art I. O make me thyself, that I behold my little bubble of self ever floating in thee. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.